Hey, this is Josh, and welcome to the fourth and final part of my D2L tutorial for beginners, where I'm just breaking down the content section in your D2L course. So for this one, this final part, we're going to be talking about the display settings, managing the content display settings. One thing I found out when I was playing around with things, super minor, but if you have a module and you have a bunch of sub-modules going on, you can just click this little arrow just to collapse some of this, and this will keep things nice and organized. So yeah, totally up to you. Just a little thing I found while playing around. Something that's pretty easy to miss, I guess. So if we click into settings here in our module, and keep in mind, we're just changing the settings for this module. If we had more modules, then they could have their own individual settings as well. So let's go into settings here. And we don't have too many options, actually. It's not too complicated. And after going through each of these, I realized that, for beginners, there really isn't too much you need to change or fiddle around in here. A lot of it's just a matter of preference. So the first one I'm going to get into is the content arrangement. Now let me show you something before I click anything. Right now you can see everything is just in the order that I had it in part 3, right? It's just a few topics, whatever. If I click on content type, manage it by content type, and then hit save, it'll actually categorize all of those things I made. Like we have materials, so we have that web page and that video that I linked, assignments, discussions. It categorizes it a bit nicely. Now, if you want things in a certain order, you don't want to turn that on. But if you think this will actually benefit your students and keep it nice and organized, then you might want to consider turning that on. I could definitely see that being a useful feature. I'm going to keep it off for now because I kind of like how it was before. The next one here is on the navigation section. Now, I really had to do a bit of research on this because I wasn't sure what the difference was before. And that's because the biggest difference you see is actually on the student view. So the student view actually has a collapsible content browser and navigation buttons. And you can actually disable this if you don't want your students having all of that stuff, I guess. I would personally keep it on, but I can't really say I've played around with the student view too much to know the difference. So that might be a conversation that's best to have with your students and their preferences. The next thing here is all about HTML. Now, if you do a lot of coding with that and you want to take more of a coding approach to making your pages, this will apply to you. However, for beginners like me, and you're just trying to get things on there and get your course set up, and you don't want to play around with the coding side of things too much, you're probably just going to want to keep this off. And yeah, I'm just going to leave that off. And if that's your cup of tea and more about the HTML side of things, you can go ahead and turn it on and play around with it. And when you set up a new file or a new page, as we called it in parts 2 and 3, that's where this will come into play, and it will also allow you to have another way you can change things on your pages. So the next thing I'm going to get into is your default font settings when you make a new file or a new page, as I've been calling it. So right now I have it on Comic Sans. I actually thought I had it on Verdanda before, but if we were to make a new file under one of our modules, so let's go to Alberta. We'll go to create a file, which again is like creating a new page. You'll see right now my default is Comic Sans, okay? And my default size is 16, I guess. And let's say we don't want that to be our default one every single time. So let's just get out of here. I'm not actually going to make a new page or anything. If I go to my font settings once again, and let's say I want my default one to be Verdanda. And let's say we want to change our default size to 10, okay? If we click save, and then we proceed to trying to make a new file, we'll see that Verdanda is set now as our default, and it's automatically at size 10. So there you go. Let's head back into our display settings, and I'm actually going to keep it at Verdanda. I think I like 16, so I'll keep it at 16. The next bit here has to do with uploading files and creating files. Now you can actually turn on a prompt that helps you kind of manage your course files as you create them or as you upload them. So kind of going back to what I said in some of the previous parts, there's actually ways you can organize things within the actual platform. But once again, I recommend just using that more as a backup than anything. You also have the option to replace files that have the same name. So where this might occur is, let's say you have like a Word document in your course for students to use. And let's say you changed a few things and then you want to re-upload that. All you got to do is just re-upload it like normal, and then you will be prompted to replace that file. And I know this because I've already ran into that. And if you click this, you can automatically replace that file. So that only really saves you like a click of a button. So I would personally leave that off because I wouldn't want to accidentally replace something I didn't mean to. So there you go. But if you're replacing all files all the time, then, maybe keep it on. But personally, I would keep that off. And then the last bit here is completion tracking. So this has to do with your course gradebook. Right now, the automatic default setting is that every assignment, quiz, whatever, it's for marks and it's going to have a section in the gradebook. You can turn off automatic completion tracking. It's pretty much just changing the default, right? Like whenever you create a new assignment, you can go in and manage this anyways, right? You can make something for marks, not for marks, part of the grade, not for part of the grade. But so, if your course actually is for marks and not just kind of like a resource bank, you're probably going to want to keep this on. But if you do have a new assignment that is not actually going to be for marks and it's just for completion or whatever, or sorry, not completion, but if it's just for an optional thing, then you can fiddle with it there. So most people will probably keep completion tracking on automatic, but you do have the option to take a different route as well. So thank you for watching part 4 of my series. And I hope you learned a little bit about D2L from this. I know I learned a ton making this series, and best of luck navigating your course.